If you're having trouble getting your ads to convert, then this is the episode for you. A lot of people don't really know how to use ads. They get intimidated by ads. They think that sometimes ads are just as simple as creating a very quick creative, throwing it up on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, putting some copy behind it, and it should work. But you have to take a couple things into account. Whatever you say in that ad is the very first touch point someone's going to have with you and your entire funnel. If that is not lined up with the rest of your funnel, with your messaging, you're going to run into problems. Also, ad costs are rising. And inside this episode, I'm going to give you 9 lessons I've learned after spending over $700,000 on ads in the past 12 months. We're going to talk about what to do with the rising ad costs, how to create creatives, what we've learned from copy, what we've learned from messaging. I'm basically going to tell you what works and what hasn't. So if that's interesting to you, well, keep on listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. We did it. We moved to Flagstaff and we are in our house, just unpacking and getting things set up. So if you're watching on YouTube, that's why I have just a plain white wall behind me. I have not built it out yet. We have stuff coming like wood and different things to build out the set in my office here at the house. But we are here. And I'm really excited to be here, excited to be finally in our house and to finally be settled after 2 months of living out of suitcases. But with that being said, I wanted to talk about something a little different today. Usually we talk about, improving your life, mindset, perspective, messaging, copy. Today, I want to go a little bit more strategy focused. I want to talk about 9 lessons that I've learned after spending probably, I know the title says 700, but it's probably closer to 800, if not more. $800,000 in Facebook ads, actually just advertising in general, in the past 12 months. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop right into that. And here's one of the lessons. I'm going to give you 9 lessons, but one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about the tactical side, the Facebook ad side, is I'm just a big believer in paid advertising. And I want to address who this episode is right for and who it's not right for. I personally believe that anyone starting out should be exploring, experimenting, and playing around with paid advertising. And one of the reasons why is because it is so much faster to build a business with paid ads if you know what you're doing. But the thing is it takes experience and trial and error, and it takes testing in order to know what you're doing. So you have to go into Facebook ads basically knowing that you're probably going to lose money in the beginning. So my philosophy around ads always, even if you're really good at them and you've used them in the past, is to only spend what you are willing to lose, because there is a chance that you might actually lose it. Okay. So that's my big disclaimer here. When it comes to ads, whether you're beginner or expert, only spend what you're willing to actually lose. Once you start to learn, and also when you get into it, understand that there is going to be a learning curve. Now, you could hire someone to help you with it who has the experience, but if you're just starting out, you don't have any money, you don't have $1,000, $2,000, sometimes even $5,000 a month to spend on a Facebook ad manager, you can do it yourself. I would recommend taking a course from someone that you trust, someone that understands Facebook ads and all of that stuff. Now, the other thing with Facebook ads and ads in general is that it also depends on what you're doing. So if you're seeking out an expert or you're looking for a course to buy or something like that, and you find this Facebook ads course, but they specialize in e-commerce and you're a course creator, well, I wouldn't recommend buying that course. So to have a good understanding of Facebook ads is one thing, but you also need to have an understanding of that specialty. Okay. So it's kind of like going out and buying a car. Anyone can go out and buy a car, But if you need a car that needs that 4-wheel drive because you're going to trails and you're going to have like, camping gear in the back of your car, things like that, you're not going to go to the Mercedes-Benz dealership and ask their opinion on cars and how to buy a car and things like that, because they're not really going to cater to what you're looking for. But if you go to Toyota, they're going to really understand the specialty of what car you should buy. Okay. So that's kind of my analogy or example there. But when you're looking for an expert, you want someone who kind of specializes in course creators or coaches or service providers or whatever it is your field is in. Okay. So this advice that I'm going to give you today does come from a course creator, a program creator, or a service provider's perspective. And this is the lessons that I have learned. And again, it doesn't matter where you're starting out. I believe that everyone can hyperspeed their growth if they have a good understanding of Facebook ads, even if they're just starting out. In fact, I even recommend our students start with through play campaigns to get exposure on their content to be able to test out messaging. So there's so many different types of ads that you can start with. Now, I do have friends and I do know people who have a big organic audience and they're like, well, we don't need Facebook ads. I'm doing so great with Facebook ads. And that's actually going to learn or lean into or be an introductory to the very first lesson that I learned, is that ads will enhance warm traffic efforts. And it doesn't matter how big your audience is. It doesn't matter how big your email list is. It doesn't matter how big your social media following is. There are always going to be people that get your email or see your post and they still don't opt in, but then they'll see your ad and they'll opt in. And I think sometimes people get this idea that it's organic or it's paid. And the way I like to look at it is it's a bicycle. And a bicycle goes a lot faster and a lot farther with a lot less effort if both wheels are completely filled up. Now, if one wheel's flat, let's just say the back wheel is flat and your front wheel is pumped up, and let's just say that means you have no paid advertising, but you have a very good organic audience, you're going to be able to move forward. Like, you're going to make progress, but you're not going to be able to go as far as and fast as you can with this little effort. Now, the same thing is true as if you only focus on paid ads, and that's like having the back wheel pumped up while the front is flat. Okay, same thing. So we want both of them pumped up. Now, the other thing is you have to understand, even if someone knows you, sometimes they will get your email and it won't be a convenient time. Maybe they'll be on their phone or in the middle of a conversation or something, and they see it and they tell themselves, oh, I should opt in, and they don't end up opting in. They forget. Well, then all of a sudden they see an ad the next day, and then an ad the next day, and an ad over here, and an ad on Instagram. They will eventually sign up. So right now we are actually running some ads. I think last I heard we had about 500 leads to our workshop already. And I believe about half of those came from, maybe more. Let's just call it, I think it was around 300 to 400. It might've been 380, 400 of them. No, I think it was 300. So 300 out of the 500 came from ads. And roughly about half of them are cold and about half of them are warm, which means they're on our email list or following us on social media or something like that. Now, the great thing about this, and some people don't like this because they're like, well, I have to pay for those leads. And it's like, and they're already on my list. It's like, great. Would you rather pay $2 and get someone who's a warm traffic and most likely going to buy in the funnel? Or would you rather not pay that $2 and just hope that they magically go back to that email and open it up? Which one would you rather do? Me personally, I would rather pay the $2 to get a warm traffic or warm person into my funnel because they're most likely going to be the ones to convert. So paid ads will increase your warm traffic efforts. You have to understand, when it comes to marketing, it's not like a one-time deal. They're going to see one thing one time and then they're going to take the action you want. You have to keep going after people. So send them an email, run an ad to them, hit them with a social media post. Do all of the things you can, multiple efforts, multiple avenues to get people into your funnel. So that's lesson number one, is that ads will enhance your warm traffic efforts. This also means remarketing. So when cart opens, cart closes. If you want them, if maybe someone opted in and they didn't join the Facebook group, you can run them an ad to get them into the Facebook group. Ads will move people through funnels. You can literally create ads to move people through your funnels. So your warm traffic can move through your funnel easier if you have the right ads set up. Number two, each phase needs ads. So it's kind of like what I was just talking about. You have to look at each phase of your launch. So for us, we have a runway. A runway for our launch incorporates a workshop. Okay, so we have ads getting people to opt in to our workshop. We have ads going to those opt-ins who didn't join the Facebook group to go join the Facebook group. Then we have ads for our main event, which is Master Your Messaging Workshop. We're going to have ads to get people to go and show up live. We're going to get ads to show people the replay. Then we're going to have open cart. We're going to have make a phone, get on a call with our coaches to see if you're a right fit. And we have closing cart. So every phase of our ad gets, every phase of our launch gets new ads. So what a lot of people will do is they do the bare minimum, just opt-in ads and maybe remarketing. They think that ads are just about getting people to opt in. It's not about getting people to opt in. It's about getting people to opt in and to move through the funnel. So if you know there's a part in the funnel where people are dropping off, they're not attending live, they're not watching the replay, they're not buying, they don't know cart's closing, we can use ads to enhance the performance of every single funnel and phase of the funnel. Because you have to understand, people are busy. You're busy. And, even though your life is centered around your launch, it doesn't mean their life is centered around their launch. They might be experiencing the launch. They might be, wanting to hear your information. They might want to see what you can teach them. But then their kid gets sick, or they have to go pick up their kid from school, or they're busy in their own business. So if you continue to use ads as reminders to move people through the funnel and hit those pain points and hit those problems and those mistakes and all of that stuff, it can really optimize your funnel using the right types of ads. So each phase of your funnel or launch should have ads. Lesson number 3, mix images and videos. And you want different styles of images and different styles of videos. One of the things that we do, and Matt does a really good job of this, is creating scroll stopping images and scroll stopping videos. So something different. I know there's image-based videos where I have like a scuba helmet on and I'm under the water, but then it has our message. And being under the water has nothing to do with the message, but it's different, right? It's not the typical like headshot with text on the screen. We do a lot of different styles of images and videos, and you can actually study other people's images and videos. Facebook has an option where you can put in anyone's Facebook account and they will show you all the ads they're running. And so you can study that. You can also just pay attention to what gets you to stop the scroll. So when you're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and someone has an ad that gets you to stop, what did they do visually that got you to stop? And you want to test these things. And I think a lot of mistakes that I see people make is that they just have one ad or two ads or three ads or one image and one video. And the video is usually like a talking head video. And although that stuff can work, what we have found is having multiple creatives and mixing different mediums, so video and images, always yields the best results because you never know what's going to convert. And sometimes we've had ads that converted really high and I'm like, why is this converting? I don't get it. And some that I'm like, oh my gosh, this ad's going to work amazingly. And it just doesn't work at all. So you just never know, but you have to mix both video and images. And I'm going to talk more about this inside of lesson number 5, because there's some things that we have found with videos in particular that work really well. And so I'll address that in step number 5. So let's recap where we're at so far, because we have gotten through 3. We have 6 more to go. So lesson number 1 is that ads will enhance warm traffic. Each phase of your funnel or launch does need some sort of ad, so you can optimize that phase and move people to the next phase. You want to mix images and videos. Now, lesson number 4 is that it's getting more expensive, so you have to think outside the box. So what a lot of people will do is they'll look at ads and they'll say, my cost per lead went from $10 to $20. and they don't look at any other numbers and they go, oh, it's getting really expensive. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have the right numbers in place. So how much is a lead worth to you? So let's say that you were getting $10 leads and a lead, every lead was worth $40. So you were paying 10, the earnings per lead was 40. So you did the math, you got the data from your funnels or your launches or whatever. And then now all of a sudden it goes up to $20. You're like, oh my gosh, it's now half of my earnings. Well, it's a $10 difference. If it goes from $10 leads to $20 leads, if you can raise your earnings per lead from $40 to $50, then it doesn't really matter because you're still making the same earnings per lead. You're still making $30 per lead. So maybe instead of figuring out how to lower your ad spend, we think outside the box here. Can we add a one-click upsell and maybe increase our customer value? Can we maybe make a downsell at the end of our launch or the end of our funnel to increase revenue to get our earnings per lead higher? Maybe there's a low ticket offer we can offer people as soon as they opt in, right? There's so many options and things you can do that make it irrelevant whether your ad cost goes up or not. And I think a lot of people get so focused on driving a ton of leads and getting lowest cost per lead that sometimes we forget about increasing the earnings that we have. Sometimes even looking at your funnel and increasing the conversion rate is all you need. So if your cost per lead goes from $10 to $20, but your conversion rate goes from 1.5% to 3%, doesn't really matter. And that's how you're going to outlast a lot of people. So the way I look at it is, yeah, let's try to focus on lower cost leads and do what we can. But at the same time, I'm looking at, well, is there ways to recoup some of our ad spend right off the bat? Is there ways to increase our conversion rate? Is there ways to increase our earnings per lead? Maybe we change the offer around. Maybe we give them a different offer. Maybe we present a different offer. So all of that needs to be taken into consideration. So I'm going to give you guys a couple ways to do that. When we did our last launch, so we promoted James Wedmore's Business by Design, which we do every year. And we decided to do something a little different. Because ad costs are going up, I looked at that and said, you know what? I wonder if we can get leads for free. Let's try something a little bit different. And so we did a workshop as part of our runway for James Wedmore's 3-day training. So I did my own workshop. It was a persuasive webinar workshop. In the past, what we've done is we just paid money, got our leads, did the workshop, and nurtured them until James's launch got started. So I would pay for that money up front. So I said, I wonder if we can change the offer around. Right now, the offer is a free workshop and a free replay. So what we decided to do is not make the replay readily available. We decided that we're going to do the workshop completely free. There's no pitch. We're going to give an amazing training, like amazing 3-hour training. But everyone had to show up live because we were not going to give a replay. So instead, what we did is we decided to charge a $47 VIP experience after people opt in. So you opt in for the free workshop. And if you want the replay to the workshop and then get a bonus call with me afterwards, like a group call, it's $47. Okay. So as soon as someone opts in for the free workshop, they go on the thank you page to get all the information. Here's where you can go. Here's the link to go. Here's the time. Here's the dates. Notice, like in big red letters, like notice there is not going to be a replay. If you would like to purchase the replay, you can for $47. And that also includes a group call with me to answer any questions about how this relates to you, any webinar questions, yada, yada, yada. So it's like a Q&A call. And we released it. Okay. So we had, I think, 2,000 to 3,000 people opt into this workshop. I think it was closer to 3,000 people. So again, just to recap, what we did was we said, okay, we're going to do this free workshop as part of our runway. People opt in for it. It's a free workshop on the thank you page. It says, here's all the details. It's free. You must show up live. And if you want, you can pay $47 and you can get the replay and you can get a bonus call. And we released it. And what happened was pretty amazing. So there's a couple things that ended up happening. Number one, we made half of our ad spend back. So I think gosh, I wish I had the numbers, but I want to say we spent anywhere, I think it was close to like $15,000 to $16,000 on ads is basically what we spent. And we made half of our money back. So we made $7,000, $8,000 off of a $47 offer. So literally what I just did was cut my ad spend in half. So let's say my ads, well, I'm not going to say it was, let's just say it was $15,000. And let's say those were $15 leads or whatever they were. Well, I recouped half of that back. So it means I only spent $7,500 to get the same amount of leads. So when I look at money out and leads in, I literally cut my lead cost in half simply by changing around the offer. So instead of it being a free offer, it still was a free offer, but instead of having the offer include a free replay, we did a paid replay. And I think out of the 2,000 to 3,000 people or however many people opted in, we had one person complain. And the person complained because they thought we bait and switched them. They thought, oh, it's free and I can't believe you did this and now I have to pay for the replay. And it's like, you can just show up live and you don't have to pay for anything. So I'd say that's pretty good odds. You know, when you have one person complain about the offer, and by the way, you're always going to have people complain when you start to change things like that. But there's a couple other things that happened that I'm really excited to share with you guys. Number one, when we did that, we had a massive increase in quality of the people that were inside of that workshop, especially inside the people that bought the paid version of it. So when we did that one-on-one call, the quality of lead that we now had was through the roof. So the chances of them buying now go way up. So anytime someone pays for something like that, the quality of who you're working with starts to go way up. And the chances of them converting go way up. So we had higher conversion rates of people who bought, then ended up buying the main offer, which was James Wedmore's training. So that was really cool. So we had higher quality people. So now imagine if you did that inside of your own launch. You had a little paid version and you now had hundreds of customers that you can now upgrade. The conversion rate's going to go through the roof. It's going to be much higher. It also gave us a brand new product. So now I have this 3-hour workshop that I can use as downsells. I can use them as upsells. I can use it as a one-click upsell. I can use it as a direct add to a low-ticket offer, then move people up my funnel. There's so many things I can now do with that workshop. Okay. And we also had people pay, the $47 for it. I can start to raise the price on it as well. There's a lot of things that we can do with that. But the other benefit we got was that because there was no free replay, it increased the show up rate to our workshop. So we had a high show up rate. I wouldn't say it was dramatic, but it was definitely higher. It wasn't like we get a 25% shot up to 50%, but it was like probably about a 10% increase in our show up rate, which is pretty good. It's like another 100, 150 people or whatever it comes, 200 people or whatever it comes out to be. So we saw a big increase in show up rate. Okay. So there's other things you can do. When ads get expensive, you should think outside the box. Can you do a paid workshop? I know Jill and Josh Stanton, who were formerly of the Screw the 9 to 5 and now the Wealthy Course Creator, all they do is paid workshops. And so when they run a workshop, you have to pay to be a part of the workshop. And the quality of person that comes into that is so much higher that their conversion rates are huge. So they get rid of a lot of the freebie seekers and things like that. Now, there could be freebie seekers that end up buying down the long run. For me, inside of my launches, I love just getting anybody and everybody I can to come into our launches, because even if they don't buy, they usually will share, they'll tell other people about it, or they'll come into launch number 2 and 3 and end up buying. So for me, it's more about exposure, but it just depends on what you want to do. So there's a lot of ways you can get around the ad spend and not have these rising ad costs be an issue for you. So that's a lesson that we've learned. Number 5 is run numerous ads. You never know what's going to convert. And if you don't run numerous ads, you're basically leaving money on the table. All it takes is one ad to lower your ad costs from 25%, sometimes even 50%. And so I remember last launch, we had a bunch of ads running and the cost per lead was so high. It was like $25 a lead or something like that. And so I said, okay, something's got to change. So what I did is I went back to last year's launch and I said, what was our top performing ad? And I took our top performing ad and I threw it into the mix, and it started crushing all the other ads. It dropped our ad cost down to like $16 or $17, which is a huge difference from 25. And all it was one ad, one creative, one copy. And we saw a massive drop in the cost. Now, that wouldn't have happened if I just ran one ad or two ads or three ads. So sometimes we'll have up to 20 different ads that we're going to be testing and trying and tweaking, especially for our opt-ins. So whatever you can handle, whatever you can do, whatever bandwidth you have to be able to create more ads, go ahead and do it. And so I'd recommend at least a minimum of 3 to 5 ads. If you can do more, great. Now, a couple of things that we noticed. A lot of our conversation ads tend to do very well. And what I mean by conversation is it's literally a conversation with two Brandons. So we record Brandon number 1 and Brandon number 2 having a conversation. Some of you may have seen this ad. One of them's me at the barbecue. Another one's me in just my backyard of our last house. And I'm just having a conversation. But it's a conversation exposing problems. Okay. So it's me talking to Brandon number 1, and Brandon number 1's making all these mistakes and not being aware he's making these mistakes. And Brandon number 2 makes him aware and asks these questions, like sleight of mouth pattern based questions that get him to see the flaws in the mistakes he's making. Now, the trick here is Brandon number 1 making the mistakes is usually doing everything our audience is doing and experiencing problems. And then I make them aware with Brandon number 2. So for example, Brandon number 1 might say, "Hey, Brandon, how's it going?" And the other Brandon will say, "Hey, how are you doing?" He says, oh, good. I just, created a bunch of videos. They're all tutorial based. They're adding a ton of value. And Brandon number 2 will say something like, "Oh, all tutorials, huh? Why are you doing all tutorials?" And he says, "Because I want to add value." And Brandon number 2 says, "Well, let's look at an encyclopedia. Do you ever see an encyclopedia at the top of the best-selling books?" Brandon number 1 goes, "No." And Brandon number 2 says, "Why do you think that is?" And he goes, "I don't know." So Brandon number 2 says, "Because the best-selling books don't add value only through education. They entertain, they get you to see something different. They shift your perspective. Same things with TED Talks. Did you create any content like that?" Brandon number 1 goes, "No." So it's these problem exposing conversations. But the reason why I think they work really well is not only because they expose problems, but also because you're not talking to the audience. When you have a talking head video, you're literally talking at the audience. You're looking at them and facing them and talking to them. And you're trying to convince them to do something. Now, when we have a conversation ad, I'm not talking to the audience. They're an observer to a conversation. So when you're observing a conversation, I think the psychology behind it is more of an easier watch, because it doesn't feel like you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't feel like you're being talked to. It doesn't feeling like they're trying to get you to do something. It's almost entertaining. You're almost curious, but it feels like you're an observer versus being engaged in a conversation that you don't really want to be engaged into. So our talking head videos sometimes do okay, sometimes they don't, but our conversation videos always seem to do really well. So lesson number 5 is to run numerous ads. Lesson number 6 is to use cross-platform efforts. We run Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and YouTube ads. Our YouTube ads historically have never really produced amazing opt-in results, but we still do it because they still, produce decent leads. But where that YouTube really comes into play for us is when we want to cross-platform track people. And what I mean by this is if someone opts in on Facebook and then they attend our webinar and then cart opens and they haven't bought yet, and they go back to Facebook, we'll remarket and we'll hit them. But what happens if they go to YouTube? I want to make sure that I'm hitting them on YouTube as well. What happens if they go to like Fox News or CNN or these other sites that use the Google network? I can run ads on those sites. So because I'm using Google and YouTube, I can follow people around the internet, even if they're not on Facebook and Instagram, which is where they first found us. Now, might be a little bit more for the advanced person to really worry about and do. And I would definitely make sure that you work with someone who is familiar with the Google network and YouTube ads, unless you want to learn it yourself, because it's pretty complicated until you learns the ins and the outs. But use cross-platform efforts. The next thing for us is to use TikTok. So if someone lands on our opt-in page but didn't opt in and they're going to go scroll TikTok, well, I want to make sure that I hit them again on TikTok to make sure that they opt in. It's retargeting these people that have gone into your funnel even in the beginning and didn't take that step with you. You can market to them on multiple platforms. So although TikTok and YouTube have not produced great cold opt-in leads for us, though they have been great platforms to be able to market to people who enter our ecosystem but haven't taken the action we want them to take yet. Okay. So cross-platform efforts. Lesson number 7 is to monitor and track. This means pay attention to what's working and what's not, and who's buying and who's not. You might need to use software like Wicked Reports or something like that to really fully track all of this. But I have a friend who just finished up his launch, and they were running lead ads. And if you don't know what lead ads are, they're different than conversion ads. So what a lead ad is it's an ad where you click on it and there's a pop-up literally on Facebook that auto-populates people's information, and it's very easy for people to opt in. But when you do that versus a conversion, the way Facebook optimizes those ads is a little bit different. So just because someone's opting in, it doesn't mean they're quality. And my friend in particular got about 15,000 lead ads, and they converted at like 0.01%. They'd lost money on their lead ads. But the conversion ads, which is an ad where someone clicks, lands on your opt-in page, and then opts in, those converted through the roof. But unless you're tracking that, you would never know. So you have to monitor and track everything. And if you're just beginning out and you're just starting and you're just like learning this stuff, this is not as important. Like, you obviously want to track as best as you can, but you don't need to get very, very granular on it. But when you start getting bigger ad budgets and you're dealing with like thousands and thousands of leads and thousands and thousands of dollars, you definitely want to make sure you have good tracking in there. So lesson number 8 is working with lesson number 7, and that's using data to make decisions. So pay attention to the data. When an ad is working, use it again and test it with other ads. You let the data tell you it's working. For us, I always love using things like through-play campaigns, and it costs like a penny per view, and you can test messaging before you get started. So I can literally look at what ad headlines are going to work, what webinar titles are going to work, because I'm running content for a penny per review and letting the data tell me what people are interested in. Which one are they watching the most? Which one are they clicking on the most? So I use our data to optimize our launches from launch to launch to launch. So every launch you do, your ads should be getting better and stronger because you have data from the last launch to be able to tell you what's working and what's not. Some of the things to look for obviously are things like lowest cost per lead, but also lowest cost per customer. So which ads produced a customer at the lowest cost? So just because something has a low cost lead doesn't mean those leads are necessarily turning into customers. So you can track what ad is producing customers for the lowest cost. You can track what leads are producing the lowest cost per lead. You can track what remarketing campaigns are working. You can also look at what messaging is working. Like you can find themes within messaging, themes within ads, themes within copy, and just reuse them and constantly test new stuff against your best performing. And what happens over time is your campaigns just get stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's actually going to lead me to lesson number 9. And lesson number 9 is that messaging and copy are like 90% of the effectiveness of your ad. And again, it depends. Like if you have a video ad like the conversation, that one does really well because the ad and the creative itself drives a lot of leads. But if you have an image more or less is going to stop the scroll, possibly raise curiosity, and get someone to read. Once they start reading, the messaging and the copy take over. The effectiveness of a lot of image ads are literally based on the copy and the messaging. Now, I think a lot of people write copy and they write messaging and ads to optimize for a lead or opt-in. I don't. I optimize for a sale. And this is really important. So I'm going to slow down here. When I create messaging and I create copy for ads, I am literally writing for a sale into my program, not for an opt-in. So here's what I mean by this. When I'm writing copy and I'm looking at our messaging for our opt-in ads, I'm literally looking at the entire messaging of our funnel, launch, and ecosystem. And I'm looking at what am I going to be teaching inside of this workshop? What is going to be the biggest, most impactful realization that I'm going to bring people inside of this workshop? And usually what I do, every time we do a workshop, we always have a breakthrough contest. So what we've done in the past launches, in the past workshops we've done, is we said, we're going to give out a $500 prize. You share your biggest breakthrough, use the hashtag breakthrough inside of our Facebook group. And we're going to give someone $500. So what starts happening every launch we do is I get hundreds of people sharing their biggest breakthroughs from my presentation in our Facebook group. And what that tells me literally is what was the most impactful part of that workshop for my audience. So when someone shares their biggest breakthrough, yeah, they're sharing their biggest breakthrough, but what they're also telling you is this single moment in your workshop had the biggest impact on me. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at which single moment, lesson, perspective shift, realization did they have inside of my workshop? What was that one thing when they heard me say it, they go, oh my God. And I put that in my ads for my next launch. So for example, one of the biggest things in our from our workshops and inside of our messaging is when people realize that number one, sorry, I hit my bracelets there on the table, but hopefully you guys didn't hear it. Number one is what I'm realizing is that there's two major things that people are like have the biggest ahas with us. Number one, when it comes to avatars and stuff like that, is that we should have two, and it shouldn't be a made up person. So it should be like you. It should be you from a past version of you, because you know what mistakes they're making, what feelings they have, what emotions they have. And so I put that in the ads. I say, look, if you've made up your avatar and you only have one, you're leaving money on the table. Have you ever realized, and I just kind of give a big realization moment in my copy, and you know what happens is that those ads tend to be the best performing ads. And the reason why they're the best performing ads is because I give people value up front without teaching them anything. I get to shift the perspective. I raise their awareness. I get them to see and realize they've been making a mistake without realizing they were making a mistake. And that gets people to opt in. And I know it works because when we run our Facebook group, which you opt into our workshops, we always have a free Facebook group, and we ask why you want to join the Facebook group. One of the most common answers is because they'll mention the ad. Oh, something you said in the ad sparked my interest. What you said in the ad, I realized I was doing. The ad spoke to me. The copy you used was really good. Stuff like that. We hear that all the time. So when I go to our other workshop, I realize that someone who's new to my ecosystem, the biggest realization they have is, number one, how-to videos all the time are why they're stuck. That education, even when you're doing educational videos, it doesn't have to happen in the form of a tutorial. There's so many ways to educate without using step-by-step information. Those two things there usually give people inside of our bigger workshop, our mastery messaging workshop, the biggest ahas. That's where the biggest breakthroughs are. So we incorporate that into our copy and our messaging. So what I love doing is getting very specific on the problems that people are experiencing in our messaging and our copy, And I love explaining why that's happening. So here's the mistakes you're doing and things like that. Give a couple counter examples to back up what I'm saying and tell them we're going to cover that on the workshop. Now, here's what I mean when I say I optimize for the sale, not the opt-in. When I'm looking at my workshop and I'm looking at the biggest breakthrough and I'm incorporating it into the ad, I know people are going to opt in. I already know they're going to opt in because I already know that messaging works. I know that breakthrough works. So when I say I'm optimizing for the sale, what I'm doing is from the very first touch point of someone experiencing my ad, I'm automatically linking it to my sales mechanism. Now my copy and my messaging is cohesive. It's consistent. When they opt in, they're going to get an email using the same exact messaging that goes on the same problem. So now I have really compelling, consistent messaging from the very first touch point to the sales mechanism. And if I can spark their interest in an ad and go deeper on the sales mechanism, that's going to be how I optimize for the sale. I'm going to take them from an aha they already had, give them 5 more ahas. Now I'm going to be increasing the chance of them actually buying and converting. Okay. So I'm looking at how do I connect the ad to what's going to be in the sales mechanism when most people write copy and messaging in their ads asking themselves, how do I just get someone to opt in? And then when people opt in, now they're asking, okay, how do I create a webinar so that I can convert them and give them more value? And I always tell people, when someone clicks on an ad, there's something that happened in the ad that sparked their interest. Keep the same messaging, the same problems on the opt-in page, the thank you page, the emails they get, and your webinar. You don't need to create more new things. You just need to go deeper with what you're already talking about in the ad. Okay. So, again, some of the best copy and things we've used inside of ads are using thought reversal things that I know work inside of copy. If you don't know what a thought reversal is, just go to YouTube and type thought reversal and watch our video on it. We make small points, realizations or awareness, or address problems and why those problems exist inside of that copy. And those always work very well. But again, we always test. We always run multiple versions of copy, multiple creatives. We pair different copy with different creatives, and we just, kind of mix it and match it all together to see what's going to convert. So those are the lessons we've learned after spending over $700,000 in ads just inside of our company alone in the past 12 months. So let me just recap them for you. Number 1, ads will enhance warm traffic efforts. Number 2, each phase needs ads. Number 3, mix images and videos as your creatives. Number 4, it is getting more expensive. So get creative with your offers and low-end offers, high-ticket offers, upsells, downsells, increasing value. Customer value. Number 5, use numerous ads. Don't create one and just assume it's going to work. Number 6, cross-platform efforts if you can. Number 7, monitor and track everything. Some leads won't work. Some targeting won't work. Some styles of leads won't work. So you just want to make sure you monitor that. Use data to make decisions. And number 9 is use messaging. Or your messaging and copy really are going to be everything. Even inside the creative of our conversation video ads, that's messaging. That's communication. It's what I'm saying inside of that conversation that's getting people to opt in. Okay, so messaging and copy literally fuel everything inside of your ad campaigns. Now, if you're inside New Generation Mastery inside of our program, great. You're already working on your copy. You're going to find out what's going to be working. You just plug those into your ads. And over time, we start to get ads that work. If you are not inside of NGM, we will be opening up soon. But you can get onto the workshops that we're doing. So we're going to have an ad play at the end of this episode to get you onto the workshop or let you know if cart is open and on all of that stuff. Because what we have learned is that you got to take strategy into account. You do have to take the creative into account. But I would say if I had to pick one thing, it's the messaging, communication, and copy within the ad, within the funnel, within the sales mechanism that actually makes it work. And so what we want to do is help you get your messaging dialed in so everything in your business works. Content, ads, emails, podcast episodes, all of it. So with that said, I'll go ahead and wrap up here. If you have not left us a review on iTunes, I'd be so grateful if you did. Just head over to iTunes, leave us a review, and we're going to play that ad here in a second to let you know how we can help you further. So here we go. I'll see you guys on the next one. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested. And thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.